once the Republican-controlled Congress kind of gets itself squared away a little bit, I guess is the best way to say it, their number one priority is going to be to extend the 2017 corporate and wealthy tax cut that they enacted. That tax cut, of course, expires this year, and so they have made it clear for the last several months that is priority number one, making damn sure that those corporations and the wealthy elite get their money. And there are some Republicans in the House that, of course, have expressed a little bit of skepticism about it. Oh, don't get me wrong. They want that tax cut because they also get it. They want it for their donors. They want it for corporations. They want the tax cut. They really, really do. They're just worried about how to pay for it because, it added $10 trillion to the deficit the first time, and it'll do the same, if not more, when they extend it. So you do have some Republicans saying, wait, we actually have to be able to pay for it. And the proposals that they have come up with to pay for this tax cut for the wealthy elite would absolutely decimate the working class, the middle class, the underclass. Everybody that is not a part of that top 5% of income earners would get screwed over tremendously, with the lowest income people getting screwed the most with the plans that they have to pay for the tax cuts for the rich. Plan number one, Donald Trump's tariffs, right? Oh, those tariffs are going to bring in so much money. That's going to pay for a huge chunk of the tax cuts. But that's a stupid plan. Because Donald Trump's tariffs, according to economists, are going to cause economic contraction, which of course means as prices go up, maybe 10, maybe 25%, depending on where the goods come from based on Trump's proposals, people are going to buy less. So when they buy less, that creates less economic activity, but more importantly, that means fewer tariffs get paid. So you can't pay for these with the tariffs because it's going to cause spending to contract, which of course will then have ripple effects all throughout the economy, leading to layoffs, leading to unemployment, which would then lead to even less spending, and so on and so forth, in a cycle that eventually ends with an economic depression. Again, according to economists, the people who do this for a living, that's what they've warned us about. Okay, so the tariffs don't work. So plan number one already sucks. They're going to try it anyway, but it sucks. And from there, unfortunately, the plans get worse. The top two items on the Republican agenda, and of course the Department of Government Efficiency, the things they're looking to cut, Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. That would, of course, save tens of billions of dollars per year, sure, but you're doing it at the expense of poor people. Literally taking away food and health care from poor people so that wealthy people can put a few more dollars in their pocket every year. That is the plan. Take from the poor and give to the rich. It's like these people never in their lives opened a Bible, read a fairy tale, saw a frickin' Disney movie. Like, really? We're going to go Robin Hood in reverse here? Has that ever, by the way, worked out well for any society, taking from the poor and giving to the rich? The answer is no. That leads to severe backlash. And of course, that would also negatively impact Trump voters far more than any other group of voters. So the very people that put these idiots in place are the ones who will suffer the most, at least in the beginning. The rest of us will eventually kind of catch up, but it's going to hit them hardest first. Another proposal they have that also screws over average everyday people is repealing environmental protections, which they estimate could save how much? $700 billion over the next 10 years. That's a lot of money. $700 billion. And it's money that's spent protecting us from corporate toxins, protecting us from corporations who dump their cancer-causing chemicals into our water supply, protecting us from the pollution they spew into the atmosphere, keeping our lungs clean, keeping our hearts beating. And they want to do away with it. Because, if you get cancer, that's fine as long as wealthy people get more money in their pockets. Because the wealthy aren't going to be affected by that. They don't live near the factories. They don't get their water from those aquifers that have been poisoned. No, they'll be just fine. They could kill us. People would die from these decisions. just so the wealthy elite can have more money. Do you understand that, folks? They want to take away health care and food from poor people. They want to poison us with corporate toxins just so people like Trump and Musk and all of these other CEOs, Wall Street bankers, can have more money each year. So they don't have to pay more in taxes. They are sacrificing our lives to give people who don't even need it more money. If that does not piss you off, then I don't think at this point anything will.
Republicans are cutting Medicaid to pay for tax breaks for the richest 1% of the American people. On Wednesday, President Donald Trump endorsed a House Republican budget plan that would impose hundreds of millions of dollars to cuts to Medicaid healthcare program jointly funded by the federal state money and 20% of food stamps for the American people, and which it helps provide coverage for Americans with lower incomes, including pregnant women, children, and people with disabilities, among others. Trump endorsed the plan over another Senate proposal, which sought to pass much of his legislative agenda through two separate bills. Trump had previously said either plan was fine with him and True Social, and the House plan was better in his mind because it puts most everything he wants into one big, beautiful bill. The bill Trump has endorsed would make over 1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and Supplement Nutritional Assistance Program SNAP, which is sometimes referred to as food stamps. According to the bill, Medicaid would see around 880 billion in cuts from the total, with SNAP losing around 230 billion in funding. The endorsement of that bill came just hours after Trump said during a Fox News interview on Tuesday evening that he wouldn't allow large cuts to social welfare programs, including Medicaid. Trump was ambiguous over his plans for the Medicaid during the 2024 presidential campaign for his platform. He didn't even mention the program that helps tens of millions of Americans. His campaign also said he would protect Medicaid, although during his first term as president, Trump did try unsuccessfully to pass a budget that would make significant cuts. Wow, and people think he's a great president. All this is coming out in the wash, yo. All the truth is coming out about this man that was hidden all these years. The gutting of Medicaid is a feature project of 2025. As far the manifesto assembled by the Heritage Foundation and other conservative groups that aim to provide the next Republican president with a blueprint for how to govern, although Trump tried to distance himself from that document, he has since used executive orders to attempt to implement many aspects of it because he was right behind it. Because if he said, "Oh yeah, I'm with it," guess who would be in office? Yeah. Okay then. The project's attacks on Medicaid could be next through this legislation. Beyond removal of needed safeguard for people who cannot afford health insurance, they plan to gut Medicaid by hundreds of billions of dollars, would also diminish the earnings of people at the bottom end of the economic ladder, which is us, the people who need it most, old people, people living in homes. Wow. The bottom fifth of income earners would see their household incomes diminished by 7.4% of the GOP spending cuts are approved. Meanwhile, the extension of the Trump tax cuts from 2017 would only increase their incomes by 6%. From the top 1% of the income earners, cuts to Medicaid would have zero impact on their household incomes, while expanding the Trump tax cuts would increase their earnings by nearly 4%. Healthcare coverage is expensive in the US, and it is. And the value of Medicaid coverage is equal to a huge share of total income. Poor families. Chief economics. Critics are blasting the Republicans and Trump for putting Medicaid on a chopping block of spending cuts while simultaneously proposing tax cuts that would mainly benefit the super wealthy in the US, and that is not fair. There's over 7 million Americans who get Medicaid. Seniors in long term care, over 30 million children, Americans with disabilities. It also is a lifeblood for some of our critical access to rural hospitals, community health clinics, etc. Trump would take one view of protecting Medicaid on one day while advocating a piece of legislation that would make Durkarin cuts to the program the next day. He's a hypocrite. Maybe he's lying during the Fox interview, which he is. Maybe he doesn't know what's in the House GOP plan he endorsed. Maybe he assumes the public won't notice the contraction. Whatever the explanation, Trump's incoherency both complicates his own party's legislative strategy and imperils the future of a health program that helps protect tens of Americans. Republicans are cutting Medicaid and SNAP to pay for tax breaks to the richest 1% of Americans. This is literally taking 1.1 trillion away from you and giving to the wealthiest people in the country who already have money. This is ridiculous. I can't believe this. This is ridiculous.
There are proposals that are written down by members of the Republicans in Congress to cut $2.3 trillion from Medicaid. And let me be clear of what that would do. It would destroy Medicaid. It wouldn't do anything to fight inflation. It wouldn't bring anybody's prices down. It would just steal people's health care.
So, in order to pay for Trump's tax cuts for billionaires, Republicans want to cut SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, by over 20%. The sad part is, the majority of Americans who depend on SNAPs for things like food stamps, they live in Republican areas. Don't believe me? Look at the facts. As of 2009, these are the counties in the United States with the highest percentage of population receiving SNAP benefits. And as you can see, all Republican counties in Republican-led states: Alaska, Kentucky, South Dakota, Missouri, South Dakota, North Dakota, Missouri, Louisiana. The list goes on. It is Republican states that benefit from SNAP, yet what does Donald Trump want to do? And why are they doing this? They're trying to nickel and dime every program that actually helps Americans so that they can have enough money for guys like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg to enjoy more tax cuts. Don't believe me? Look it up.
So have you heard about the cuts that Republicans want to make to Medicaid and food stamps in order to pay for tax cuts for billionaires? And are you feeling like, I want to call my House representative about that? Good. I'm going to show you how you do it and what you say. Ready? So you're going to call the Congressional Switchboard, which is 202-224-3121, and then you're just going to ask for your House representative or just click on the button for that.
Capital operator, may I help you?
Oh, I want to speak to my House representative, please. I'll give you my zip code.
A member of staff will be in touch with you as soon as possible. Thank you for calling.
Hey, my name is Jessica Craven. I'm one of his constituents. I will give you my zip code at the end. I am calling because I am very upset about House Republicans' proposed cuts to SNAP and Medicaid. Grocery prices and hunger are increasing in the country. Cutting the program that helps over 42 million people put food on the table is unacceptable. And it's the same thing with Medicaid. 72 million Americans rely on it for health care, mostly children, seniors, and veterans. Republicans desire to cut these programs in order to pay for tax cuts for rich people, actually billionaires, is disgusting. So What is the Congress member doing to protect SNAP and to protect Medicaid? I would like a response, please, and I will give you my phone number. Thanks so much. Here's your script. Pause. Screenshot. Now it's your turn.
We have some major news right now. House Republicans are officially putting Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, and climate measures on the chopping block in a newly obtained document which lists out over $5 trillion in cuts that the GOP may try to make over the next several years. These cuts include more than $2 trillion to Medicaid, over $150 billion to the Affordable Care Act, over $460 billion to existing climate policy, like an EV mandate, for example, and other IRA, Inflation Reduction Act grants that were issued. They're also listing out talking about ending student loan forgiveness programs. And the reason they want to do this is to be able to offset costs for Trump agenda items like increased border security and tax cuts. Essentially, when they're asked how are they going to pay for these massive tax cuts, well, it means cutting Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act and climate-related measures. And not enough people are talking about it right now. This was just released by Politico. I encourage you to read the document, and as always, follow along for all the news you need to know about. Much more to come soon.
We just got the Republican budget. We vote on it tomorrow, and the top lines are clear. There's $1 trillion in spending cuts, but there's $4.5 trillion in tax giveaways to the wealthiest Americans and biggest corporations. That's right. Republicans are once again going to increase our deficit by trillions of dollars. And how are they going to justify doing it? I wish I could tell you, but this document unbelievably has 31 pages of blank spaces where numbers should be. But we know how they're going to do it. They've told us. They're going to make cuts to Medicaid. They're going to cut the services that protect our seniors, our kids, our veterans. And that's why we're going to be there tomorrow, to push back, to make sure that the services Americans need will still be there.
Oh, I'm still so mad at a whole lot of y'all. Y'all don't understand that your decision not only affects you, but it affects the people around you too. Come on, sip a little tea with Auntie. Let's talk about it, y'all. So the House Republicans then put out the budget for 2025, y'all. $880 billion. Let me say it again because y'all act like y'all don't register the number. $880 billion in Medicaid cuts. If it doesn't affect you personally, oh, I ain't worried about it. I pay for private insurance through my job. What about your little grandma that get Medicaid and Medicare? What about some of these children that get Medicaid and Medicare? Let's talk about that. Also, they are cutting SNAP benefits by 20% too. That may not affect you directly, but what about the little children down the road that sometimes, if they get to eat at home, you know, that's the only way they be able to eat if their parents get some type of SNAP benefits. Y'all didn't consider all of that, not one bit. Y'all just, you know, swept that under the rug, y'all. But $880 billion in Medicaid cuts. Come on now, the bulk of us, you know, it's a lot of people that's in the middle class and the lower class that receives. If they don't personally receive or qualify, their children does. These kids will be affected by that. And y'all keep on trying to make it seem like that's not what it is. But it is, y'all. Y'all remember at one point, you can get unlimited prescriptions. They had to chime it down to only being able to get 5 prescriptions. What if your child is a sickly child and has to have 8 every month? You're going to have to figure out which 5 you're going to use, and the other 3 you're gonna have to come out your pocket with it, or that child gonna go without medicine. Come on now, y'all. Come on. Y'all ain't sipping this tea. Y'all ain't feeling me yet. Damn.
The House Republicans have released their budget resolution, and in it they seek to cut $880 billion from Medicaid. And if you don't know how much we spend on Medicaid per year, I didn't either. I went and looked it up. $880 billion. So they are wanting to cut Medicaid 100% out. And if this budget passes, then that's what will happen. The budget only has to pass by a simple majority, and that's going to be it. So if you know anybody that's on Medicaid that, you know, requires Medicaid, then you need to tell them now and to start preparing. They're also cutting food stamps by 20%. And they're doing all of that while also passing $4.5 trillion in tax cuts to the top 1%. So This is what you voted for, MAGA. I know you thought it was a win over us libs, but we're all going to suffer. Thanks.
Breaking news, the Republicans are planning to cut Medicaid, to cut food stamps, to fund the extension of the Trump tax cuts for the very wealthy. This is just wrong. We should not be taking away a parent's ability to provide healthy food for their kids, to feed tax cuts for the very rich. We should not take away a parent's ability to have a doctor for their kids because we want to give more tax cuts to the wealthiest. It's time to stand up for food stamps and for Medicaid.
The Trump tax cuts worked from the standpoint of economic growth, bringing investment back to the United States, and record wage growth, especially in those first 3 years pre-COVID. I think the key here is to lock in really the growth in that tax code going forward, making permanent some of the key business provisions that have begun to lapse. That's very key.
Tax cuts are not free. They are going to drive up interest rates if we put them on the nation's credit card. It means we are going to cut Medicaid or other healthcare programs to pay for them, or tax every imported good coming into the country. So I think that's a critical part of it. And when the Congressional Budget Office did an analysis of extending those tax cuts, they actually found it would reduce growth in the long run because of those higher interest rates as Americans are paying more for our mortgage, as housing investment goes down, driving up housing costs, etc. So I think the key thing is that these are tax cuts very tilted to wealthy people.
Quick question for MAGA, for Trump voters. The House unveiled the basic framework of their budget bill today. It includes a $4.5 trillion tax cut that benefits primarily the 1% and billionaires. It includes a 20% cut to food stamp benefits, SNAP benefits, and it zeroes out the budget for Medicaid, an $880 billion cut. That's their budget. So today I learned that there's not a single Trump voter in the United States of America who receives any benefits through Medicaid, because certainly they would never vote to zero out their own health care benefits. Is that accurate? Is this what you guys voted for?
Good morning, everybody. So we're going to do this after President's Day weekend. A couple facts for you today. 806 billionaires in this country as of last year. They're worth $5.8 trillion. Their wealth has doubled since the 2017 tax bill. They are worth more than the bottom half of America. It's around 56 million households. So now, as we balance our national accounts, my question is, why are we looking to cut $880 billion from Medicaid for our lowest income Americans? In a country of such abundance, why do we continue to make it harder for those with the least to get by? I don't know. Do you?